My name is Frankie Graham Jr., and I approve this message.
With 16 years of experience serving our nation and communities across the world as a member of the U.S. Air Force, a university instructor, a youth clinical resident director, and community activist, Reading's own Frankie Graham Jr. is stepping forward to be mayor of Reading as a Democrat. As mayor of Reading, Frankie will work with everyone to bring more jobs and services, to clean our community with a citywide task force, a new downtown nightlife with more activities, more police patrols, and police presence citywide. More free parking across the community, legalizing recreational marijuana, creating city regulations to protecting tenants from neglecting landlords, and giving nonviolent criminal offenders another chance. Of clear 10 years of all wrongdoing. On May 21st, elect a product of our community, Frankie Graham Jr. for Mayor of Reading. For more information, go to our Facebook page, Frankie Graham Jr. for Reading. Click on like to ensure you're following Frankie to stay up to date. Not a Facebook person? Go to Frankie's campaign website, frankieforreading.com. This message paid for by the candidate.
My name is Frankie Graham Jr., and I approve this message.
about 45 million pounds of chips in a quarter. That equates to about 200 million pounds of potatoes, which is quite a few. What's interesting with M&T is they were a small town bank, and as we've grown, they've also grown with us. They've got the resources that you would need in order to go big, but they also have that friendly local community feel so that it makes it seem easier than it probably is.
Hello, and welcome to another Candidates Up Front. I'm Ernie Post, and I'll be interviewing our guest today, Frankie Graham, who's running for mayor of the city of Reading. Frankie, welcome. It's good to see you again and have you back to talk to the viewers today and voters. So I always like to just give everybody on the show a chance to take a couple minutes and just give a little bit of your background. On the personal side, how long you've been in Reading, and kind of what prompted you, what motivated you to put your hat in the ring for mayor this time.
This time. Okay.
Yeah. So
thank you for the opportunity of speaking here on BCTV for this. This is my second appearance on here, and each time it's a great experience. Seeing all the green room and all the other things here, and but then again, let's go back into saying is. My name is Frankie Graham Jr. I was born and raised here in Reading, Pennsylvania, back in 1985 at St. Joe's. That's now the Citadel. I graduated from Reading High School in 2004 as a member of the National Honor Society. That's rank 56 out of, I think it was like 595. While I was a student, I was ranked 17th in the nation in track and field and high jump. I was a district medalist here, I was a state medalist, and throughout the county. I was really a nerd and a jock at the same time in high school. And then after I graduated from high school, I went into the Air Force. Actually, not the Air Force. The Air Force was after I went to college. I was at Lock Haven University. I got my bachelor's degree in international studies. And while I was a student there, I studied at Beijing Technology and Business University. And in Chinese, they pronounce it as Beijing Gongshang Daxue. Most people were surprised I could speak Chinese pretty well. I speak Beijing Hua is what they call it, the purest sounding of Mandarin Chinese.
Okay.
After I graduated from college, I actually went to the Air Force in 2009. I'm a big supporter of Barack Obama. I love Barack Obama. Some people might not like him, but for me as a young African-American male, that was a good African-American figure for me to follow. In addition to Colin Powell with my military background. He was a great general, in my opinion. While in the Air Force, I earned my first master's degree in international relations, conflict resolution. And then the reason I got that was to try to help more out with the city of Reading, because we have this community that's very diverse. And we, as you know, we're full of conflict. And we need some people here that know how to do some more diplomatic talking versus forcing their own opinions. After I got out the Air Force, it was mainly because of the city. I got out. I resigned from the Air Force for my full-time job in 2015 after the election, and I started working for a nonprofit called Presbyterian Hospitality House. Presbyterian Hospitality House is a residential program for children with mental health issues, and they moved me around a lot because I kept on showing so much promise. The CEO was very proud of me. Shout out to Durana Tickner for giving me my opportunity up in Fairbanks, Alaska. And she got me to the position I was working as a teaching parent. I was directly in charge of 5 children all day long.
Yeah.
And the reason I did this kind of work is because, is when I was going door to door knocking, and I was meeting families, I realized, man, there's a lot more going on in these families that need to be addressed that's not being talked about. So I wanted to get more hands-on experience with that. So I worked with children with mental health issues. After I did that for about a year and a half, I took a break a little bit, and I traveled around the world. I went to about 13 different countries all across Europe and Asia, looking at their tourism industry, looking at their government structures, looking at how the people interact with each other, looking at how they were cleaning up their city. I was looking at these things in great details, not from a tourist perspective, but as a scholar. There's our programs around the world that are free, like Couchsurfing. You can meet local people, and they introduce you to their community and their country from their perspective, not a tourist perspective. So I was eating at restaurants that tourists don't eat at. It was great. After that, I came back to Reading in the summer 2017, and I started to launch my nonprofit, the Frankie Graham Jr. Foundation, that focused on a lot of things I learned working in Alaska, things that need to be addressed with English speaking abilities. Like I teach English as well. I teach English internationally for over 8 years.
Awesome. So what was one of the key motivating factors that prompted you to enter the race this year?
Well, entering this election is pretty much a promise I made to the voters in 2015. I said, win or lose, I'm going to keep pushing on my own if I need to, the things that they want to be addressed. The foundation, the nonprofit I have, was to make sure all those promises were kept. We kept on working towards different solutions of helping people in this community and internationally. The nonprofit actually is legally a 501c3 that has the capabilities and the ability to work to function internationally.
Okay, all right. So I always like to get into just what would be, say, your top priority if elected mayor. What would be your number one priority that you would want to go to work on? And we'll get into the second and third.
I would say the first one would be public safety. I'm very concerned about the public safety. We're considered one of the worst cities, most dangerous cities in the nation for our size to start, from the ratio, they start at 78,000 to 99,000, Reading's 88,000 is estimated. And we fit in that. That's not attractive to people who want to do business here. It's not attractive to people who want to stay here or find a new home for their family. This is not attractive. God bless the people who coming here from New York. They're coming here still. And, a lot of them are telling me they come here because the cost of living is low. They said that Reading's unsafe and it's starting to get like New York. And I look at addressing that with more police presence, like I see in other nations. Like we're having issues with the pagoda right now. Do you know if we were in Beijing or China, somewhere like that, they have security or a police officer that at a landmark like that at all times to ensure nothing happens. And I just don't understand something like that, something basic and simple.
Okay. So you would advocate for increasing police presence and numbers on the force and that sort of thing.
Yes. And the thing is, that's very tricky to do at this moment because we're under Act 47. Under Act 47, it actually limits the number of police officers we are allowed to have in the city of Reading. It also limits the personnel that are supposed to be in the police department. Like, for example, right now, with the low manning numbers that we are set to, we're not really supposed to have a deputy chief of police with the manning numbers. But that's something like the current administration is not following the guidelines set by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Okay. So what would be some, aside from increasing the force, and which may be challenging to do under Act 47, are there other things you might advocate for, from either community policing perspective or just community neighborhood, watch programs, things like that?
That's interesting you said that because I've written a plan 4 years ago with the help of a classmate from Reading High School who his name is Joshua Fasik. He has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in clinical psychology. He does all those things. And we work together with others with suggestions on how to get a community watch program back. We call it Operation Black Knight. It's been published for over almost 4 years now. No one really paid attention to it. Now that this time around, seem to get a little bit more attention from people, so it's getting read a little bit more, and some people actually like it.
Okay. All right. So what would be, just let's go to your second priority, Frankie. What would be another priority that you're running on that may be different than some of the other candidates?
Well, we were talking about this earlier, and I really thought I would want to do citywide cleaning as being my second one, but everyone's talking about that. And so I want to talk about something that no other candidate's talking about, and that's giving nonviolent felons a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people in our community that are limited by their record.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another reason why we have such a high unemployment rate in our city.
Mm-hmm.
People are not able to work because they're being held and labeled by something that happened 20 or 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to a gentleman right now. He wants to be a police officer, but he has a misdemeanor on his record that's very minor, and he can't go around getting his licensing for his gun and other training.
Okay.
But his incident was nonviolent. It was just a disagreement between him and his mother of his child.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no domestic or anything. It's just this disagreement, and now he's labeled for the rest of his life. He did this like 15 years ago, and he's still held.
Mm-hmm.
Once a person like that has something simple like that taken away, they have opportunity that doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with my mother. Most people know my mother. They jokingly call my mother OG in the city. And she went through her little battles here and there. And I learned a lot about, the struggle really exists in the city of Reading from my mother. And she did her time in prison. She did her different things that everyone else has to. And still she at times is labeled. And my mother is a good person. She goes to church all the time. She helps people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
But people in this community like to use her past against her to, put myself down or her down, and people like her down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty much against that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So you had also talked about one of the other things that you were working on is the legalization of is that something that you want to talk about?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Legalization of marijuana. They're doing it in Denver, and they're having good results with this, with their finances.
Mm-hmm.
The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania needs finances and revenue badly, and they continue to milk everybody that doesn't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in Reading, there's a very small portion of people who actually pay their taxes. There's a lot of rental properties, so you have a large residence number in Reading that don't pay taxes, but they use the city services. It puts a large burden on the community as a whole. And the way we can combat that is legalizing marijuana like everyone else is doing around us. New Jersey is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They just did it. I watched the entire broadcast about it and the different pros and cons about it, the different hearings. Denver's doing it. Oregon's doing it. California's doing it. And not to mention 7 other municipalities in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Why can't we be the 8th? Why do we always have to be far behind? Especially when the lieutenant governor is coming here in the city tomorrow. I'm going to go meet with him as well, talking about this. And the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is looking to doing this possibly in the next 2 to 3 years. So Reading, why can't we do it now? Get the head start, get ourselves situated. We'll be the it city. They'd be like, all right, Frankie, this city is the city we base off of, especially with a large population with substance abuse. People don't realize, when I think about substance abuse, is I understand legalization of marijuana opens the doors to some people, but you have to understand it's naive to believe that it's not happening around us. How many articles did we read this recently about corner stores being busted for it, selling it, corner stores throughout the Reading? It's all around us. It's about, can we control and manage it to make sure that people are doing it safely, responsibly? Because people are going to do whatever they want because no one's there to watch them. So let's make it safe for them to do it, control and manage it, just like they do with alcohol. Now, the state is looking at doing it at the age of 21, but I was a veteran in the Air Force, so I believe 18. If you're old enough to die for this country, you should be able to do whatever you want, but under management. We have young airmen in the Air Force. They're young, but with the right supervision and mentorship, they're fine. They can make right decisions.
And that would play into your other comment too, just in terms of past records, past history. Sometimes a drug, a charge will keep somebody from being able to. So that would eliminate.
Yes,
take some of that.
Yes, I love. Thank you for reminding me. That's another reason I would love to have the legalization of marijuana is to do what the other states are doing around us, and that is cleaning those records. If you have simple possession of marijuana, that's a pretty high charge. For something just a plant, So why can't we do it like other cities and states are doing? They're going back in New Jersey 30 years, cleaning up records, giving people an opportunity again.
Right. Okay. All right. So you've got three core things you would be focused on. What about your background do you think would make you an ideal candidate to be able to say convince city council or communicate with city council to get on board with some of your platform goals and priorities?
That's a good question. When it comes to dealing with city council, I would try my best to work with them, but you have to understand that majority of city council has been there for over 2 terms. They're set in their own ways. They're not willing to work with anybody. You can look at a few instances posted in the Reading Eagle and live television, different broadcasts. We have city council members who are constantly fighting with one mayor after the other. It doesn't matter who the mayor is. And I don't understand that. They've been there. They've been trying to push their own agenda. So they put other candidates in against me that are their puppets. And what makes me different from those candidates, they don't have an understanding of government per se as in formal training or education. A lot of these people are real estate agents or speakers who are trying to motivate people. And they speak about doing things for our community, but they actually haven't. They just done things for themselves, like their personal businesses and things like that. But as I said, what makes me different is I do have the experience in education in government. As I said to you earlier, a master's in public administration is major because in order to be a city manager in this city, you have to have a master's in public administration or a master's in business administration to be a city manager. Why doesn't the mayor have to have at least some education himself in government and experiences in government to know what the city manager is doing? Because a lot of times we have city managers come into our community, they're not even from our community because the type of people that fill that position, the number of people in our community is very limited. So now a lot of times we bring people in from the region or another state. So it's very vital for a mayor to understand what the city manager is doing to make sure we're not being misled or taken the wrong direction because of that person's personal agenda we don't know about.
Okay. So what sort of skills and experience beyond just like the formal education would you be looking for, say, not only just for key city hall management positions, but for nominating somebody to sit on some of the authority boards, which has been kind of a hot topic the last few months here. Do you have any thoughts on that in terms of what you would be looking for and how you would handle some of the authorities and the appointments recommendations for some of those authority positions?
I strongly believe in hiring the best candidate, not because on their abilities, their education, their experiences, their character. What we have a problem in City Hall is that we have a lot of people appointed into positions because of political favors. They do different things for the mayors during their elections and they get put in there. Or they're a good friend or family friend of a friend. It's a good old boy system. I look to getting rid of the good old boy system. I dealt with the good old boy system in the Air Force. I was not very fond of it. Trying to get commissioned to be an officer, and they pretty much stopped that to random stuff because I wasn't part of their clique. And that's a problem in City Hall. It's very cliquish because of the people who put them there. And we were talking about this last night, is that they were talking about having minorities more into City Hall. Yes, it's great to have more minorities in City Hall. I agree. I'm a person of multi-races. But we just don't put anybody in there just because of the race.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm all for affirmative action, but also there's a standard that you have to earn what you get. You just don't have things handed to you.
Right.
And that's what I try to prove, like as myself as a person, that I work hard for everything I get and that no one can take anything from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I might talk about my education a lot, but it's something I'm very proud of. And I worked over 16 years to get to that point.
Right.
Because no matter what they say, they can't take that from me.
Right.
Because I have unlimited knowledge now to go anywhere and help anybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Are there other topics then you'd like to share? We've got a few more minutes here before we wrap up.
Topics.
I didn't mean to limit you to 3, but I wanted to make sure we got your top 3 priorities down. And I open it up for if there's other priorities that you have been talking about and want to share with the viewers.
Other priorities. I'm looking at I talked about the citywide task force about cleaning. I will talk about that a little bit. It's because it's such a major thing I saw, like when I was traveling in Vietnam, Cambodia. I'm walking around Prague, looking at people are cleaning the city. There's a whole different attitude and mindset I saw elsewhere that I wish I could bring into the city, the care, the love for this community. And I hope to do that by starting a first-time home buyers program.
Okay.
Something that's more helpful for people in the city versus encouraging people to rent out properties. If we can move towards more of a home buyers program for first-time low-income people, give them the opportunity to buy these homes. These properties are so cheap. Why do we keep giving them to the city and other investors outside the city who are not for the city? They just pretty much want to get these properties and get the money they want, and they neglect the landlords. I mean, these landlords neglect the tenants. Multiple times I've seen these landlords have done things that violate health inspections and everything else, and the current administration's leader would let that go. In court cases, I actually sat there as an intern in codes and watched him try to help the landlord, but not help the tenants. And that's what we still deal with. That's why the properties and stuff are in poor conditions, because we have too many rental properties, and codes and zoning don't do their job to make sure things are enforced and make sure that the landlords are taking care of the people, because each time a tenant comes in, they're evicted when they're trying to challenge it.
Right. So trying to build more home ownership programs.
Yes. Build pride in the community.
Get people invested more where they would have a home that they're making equity, building equity in would be one of your priorities.
That's what, growing up in Reading, that's how it was. There was a lot of homes were owned by the people, their families. I talk to voters, they talk about, I lived here for generations, Frankie. We're the 3rd generation or 4th generation here.
Okay, Frankie. So we have a few minutes left. I always like to give everybody a final couple minutes, just if you want to share anything, message to the viewers and to the voters out there. I'll let you have the floor and say a few wrap-up messages if you want.
Okay. I'm going to try my best at this, because I remember 4 years ago, I was so nervous doing this.
You're doing
I was so nervous. But all right. So City of Reading, my name is Frankie Graham Jr., and I'm looking to you face eye to eye. And I would like to, first of all, thank BCTV for inviting me to come here and give this opportunity. And I'm looking at you eye to eye with an honest, sincere heart that I really believe you guys should really look into all candidates. Find the candidate that fits you and fits our city the best. Even if you're a supporter of mine, I always tell my supporters to research me, find out who I am. If I'm good for the city, just don't take my word for it. And I hope that other candidates, when you look at other candidates, you can see that I am the best candidate overall, and that everything I have written out is sincere and comes from the heart.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Frank, for coming in today and sharing your views. And we wish you all the best of luck out there on the campaign trail. And I know you'll be out knocking on many doors over the next 6-7 weeks.
Yes.
And again, we look forward to seeing you out there and at different events throughout the city. So thank you for coming in today and sharing with the viewers.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
we make about 45 million pounds of chips.